Happening now, family and friends of a Jamestown woman killed during a domestic dispute homicide have launched a fundraiser to help support her children left behind. And our Alyssa Wright is breaking down the just delivered Jamestown BPU progress report and what it means for local customers. Plus, the results are in about Jamestown's school board and budget vote last night.
Live and on demand, this is WNY News Now.
And thanks for joining us for WNY News Now. I'm Justin Gould. Those stories and more are coming up, but first...
This is WNY News Now with live breaking news.
An investigation is underway to determine what sparked an early morning house fire here in Chautauqua County. Around 5:30 Wednesday morning, the Sherman Fire Department was dispatched to 3264 Wall Street for a reported structure fire. When crews arrived at the scene, they discovered flames within a two-story residence and called for a multi-mutual aid response for several nearby departments. The fire has since been extinguished, and as of mid-morning, an investigation continues. It appears the house suffered severe damage as a result of this fire, with the roof burned and collapsing into the residence below. It's unclear if any injuries were reported as a result. A fundraiser is underway to help support children of a Jamestown mother killed during a domestic violence altercation. A family and friends of Kayla Hodgkin are seeking the community's help by donating to a GoFundMe page that will benefit her three children, ages 8, 11, and 14. The 34-year-old was discovered deceased at her William Street home in Jamestown last Thursday. Local law enforcement say a manhunt continues for Michael Burham, who is believed to be armed and dangerous. Even though an official motive has yet to be released, Hodgkin's neighbors tell us her death was likely the result of continued domestic violence. Burham has had an active arrest warrant for first-degree rape and unlawful imprisonment prior to a car fire that he's also accused of. He faces an arson charge there, which police say was ignited just after the homicide took place. If spotted, you should call 911. Tips can also be left with information regarding the suspect to Jamestown Police's tip line. That number's on your screen. It's 716-483-8477. A 23-year-old man is accused of trafficking drugs into a spiritualistic community in Chautauqua County. On Tuesday, the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office, in conjunction with the Customs and Border Protection Agency, arrested Nicholas Loomis following a months-long investigation into the trafficking of narcotics through FedEx from Great Britain to Lilydale in Chautauqua County. Investigators say Loomis was allegedly busted with 3 kilos of codeine and subsequently charged with criminal possession of a controlled substance. Since his arrest, Loomis has been remanded to Chautauqua County Jail without bail. And a Jamestown man will spend a decade in state prison after he was convicted for child sex crimes. On Tuesday, the Chautauqua County District Attorney's Office announced the sentencing of Jeffrey Bear. The 38-year-old was sentenced by County Court Judge David Foley to 10 years in state prison, 20 years of post-release supervision. Prosecutors say that Bear pled guilty to first-degree course of sexual conduct against a child. That's a Class B felony back on March 2nd. DA Jason Schmidt thanked the Child Advocacy Program and Jamestown Police's Juvenile Unit for their dedication to victims. He says without the group's help, these types of cases would be exponentially more difficult to prosecute. Well, officials with the Jamestown Board of Public Utilities, they delivered a progress report this week to Jamestown City Council, discussing the new and at times controversial garbage can rollout. Alyssa Wright recaps the conversation.
In fall 2021, Jamestown's utility provider issued new garbage cans. 2 years later, officials are looking back at the new way of taking out the trash.
I think it's going really well. I think from a container standpoint and a compliance standpoint, it's improved greatly. If we look back 12 months, I think there's been a bit of a focus on containers left out on the terrace for more than a couple of days, and trying to remind people that it's city code requires that to be removed, and we can't have it sit out there all week long.
At first, not everyone was pleased with the revamped garbage collection effort. Just months into the initiative, several residents voiced concerns about a new policy forcing residents to enclose all garbage inside of their bins, preventing an overflow of trash.
The containers and the whole program, I think, have helped our employees greatly as well. I think that from a physical standpoint of lifting and moving bags from needles and glass and sharp exposure, I think from a health and wellness standpoint and employee safety, it's been a great program for us.
During Monday's City Council meeting, BPU General Manager David Leathers also talked about electric production.
You know, we always talk about electricity and reliability as keeping the lights on, but I don't want people to talk about that anymore, because with all this electrification, really it's you know, you're impacting people's lives if you're not reliable, and so it's much more than keeping the lights on.
In the end, Leathers believed that communication is key, especially when dealing with public displeasure, like the aforementioned garbage pickup policy.
I appreciate very much when you have any questions, you call, you text, you email, so you know, we're here to support you and be responsive, and so we take that really seriously, and you know, appreciate you reaching out whenever you need to.
In Jamestown, Alyssa Wright, WNY News Now.
Results for the 2023 budget vote and School Board of Education for Jamestown Public Schools are in. On Tuesday, Jamestown residents voted to approve both the 2023-24 school budget and the creation of a $5 million capital reserve fund. 3 new school board members were also elected for 3-year terms starting on July 1st. Incumbents Paul Abbott and Christine Schnars were re-elected, with newcomer John Penabienko besting Melissa Paterniti for the final board seat. Now, tonight, the Board of Education, they'll host a vote canvass at 6 o'clock to certify the results. Well, now let's switch gears and get a first check of our weather forecast today. Chief Weather Forecaster Andrew Stevenson joining us with that. And Andrew, pretty quiet day out there weather-wise as we soak in some sunshine.
We had some clouds around this morning, and you see those clouds off behind me on First Defense Doppler radar, but those clouds are pretty much scattered out across the region. We'll be left with mostly sunny skies for the rest of the afternoon. Similar to yesterday, we do have a special weather statement once again issued by the National Weather Service in Buffalo for an elevated fire risk across the region. With dry air in place, humidity levels may drop as low as 20 to 30%, combined with wind gusts of 20 to 25 miles per hour at times. It's possible that if any of these fires were to start, they can spread rather quickly. So even though the New York State burn ban has been allowed to expire, it is highly recommended that you avoid any outdoor burning today. The almanac for yesterday, we made it to a high of 70 degrees. Our low was 38 degrees yesterday. Our records for today, 91 set back in 1991, and a record low of 26 set back in 1984. So here's your First Defense forecast for the afternoon out there. Partly to mostly sunny skies for the rest of the day. It will be an unseasonably chilly day. We are well below average today. Highs today will range from the mid to upper 40s to lower 50s across the region. Some areas might not make it out of the upper 40s. I'll have a look at that full forecast, including some frost possible tonight, coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Andrew, we'll see you back in a bit. Thank you. As we continue the latest on a criminal case prosecuting the deadliest limo crash in New York State's history. And later, our Albany correspondent is hearing from advocates who are rallying for overdose prevention. Stay with us. WNY News Now. We'll be right back.
With coverage that matters. This is WNY News Now.
On this episode of Lead and Lures, pro staffer and lethal lady Caitlin Armstrong takes out her big Ohio buck. Months of hard work, dedication, and scouting have led her to this moment. You're not going to want to miss this episode of Lead and Lures. on channel 716 Roku TV. And if you want to see more of Caitlin Armstrong, follow her on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at
Hunting
Caitlin
on
Armstrong.
private land has been quite the experience.
3-on-3 basketball returns to Jamestown, New York this summer. Collaborative Children's Solutions and partners are hosting a Gus Macker tournament August 19th and 20th in Brooklyn Square. The streets will be packed with a festival atmosphere, bringing the youngest of our Macker mites up to the adult players who compete for the top prize in their divisions. Register online at Macker.com before July 31st. The Jamestown Macker will also include some specialty competitions, making it one of the best community events of the year.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvan Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
A jury began deliberations Tuesday in the trial of a limousine company manager accused of deadly indifference to safety rules before a crash that killed 20 people. Nassim Hassan is charged for the 2018 wreck of a stretch SUV limousine in Schoharie, New York. It's one of the deadliest U.S. road wrecks in the past 2 decades. Ashley Dagger with WRGB has more for us.
Defense attorney Lee Kinlan giving his closing statement for the 2018 Schoharie limo crash trial. His client, Naaman Hussein, faces 20 counts each of manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide. Much of Kinlan's argument was used on a timeline showing the several times Hussein brought the limo into Mavis Discount Tire store, where records and services were not performed, even though Hussein was charged for them. Kinlan emphasized to the jury that Mavis is the one to blame for the brakes failing, essentially causing the crash.
Do not absolve Mavis of their wrongdoing. Nobody sits on the stand under oath and admits to taking part in a criminal conspiracy to falsify business records and jeopardize the safety of others unless they think they're untouchable. A guilty verdict against Naaman Hussein lets them off the hook. Special
Prosecutor Fred Wrench, helping represent the prosecution in this case, did not let Kinlan off the hook for pointing the finger at Mavis. Within the first few minutes of Wrench's closing statement, he used Kinlan's words against him, saying Hussein is the operator and bears responsibility.
That responsibility is the exclusive duty and responsibility of Naaman Hussein. That's his client's responsibility, exclusively, by statute and regulation.
Wrench used emails showing the evidence a Department of Transportation investigator put the 2001 Ford Excursion limousine out of service and tried to get Hussein into regulation. Several investigators of the crash also testifying it was improper maintenance that caused the crash.
He also testified that it was catastrophic brake failure, which was caused by a failure to properly maintain the Ford Excursion stretch limousine.
Now the jury will continue deliberation into tomorrow, and as mentioned before, Naaman Hussein's fate rests in their hands. Reporting in Schoharie, Ashley Dagger, CBS 6 News.
As job seekers may be looking for work during the summer months, the Better Business Bureau, they're reminding the public to carefully verify employment offers to avoid falling victim to a scam. Communications Director of Better Business Bureau of Upstate New York says it's important to be on the lookout for scams. They tell us one of the most common scams is to look out for.
The scammer will tell people that they'll send a check to put together a home office setup and buy things like a computer, a desk, other things you would need to work from home. And once you send your banking information, you may get a check in the mail, but that check is fraudulent. And then you probably lost out on quite a bit of money, or they have your information.
One of the best ways to avoid scams is if a company does reach out to you, you got to do your research to make sure they're legit. Well, Tuesday, advocates, they traveled to Albany, calling on state leaders to legalize overdose prevention centers. Our New York State Capitol correspondent Elise Klein is talking to lawmakers about current legislation around the issue.
My child might be alive today if overdose prevention centers were available.
Plus lost her oldest son, Jeff Dugan, to an overdose in 2014. She says Jeff loved to cook and was kind to everyone around him. She says he was ashamed of his addiction and wishes he had a place where he didn't have to feel shame.
He died alone in the bathroom. And there's nothing worse for a mother to think of. You know, losing your child is bad enough, but think he died alone in a bathroom.
Plus traveled from Binghamton along with other advocates from all over the state to advocate for the legalization of overdose prevention centers. There are currently 2 pilot overdose prevention centers in New York City. Terrell Jones, who works at On Point, one of the pilot centers in New York City, says these centers save lives.
It brings people into a space where they're welcome, where they feel love, contempt, dignity, respect.
Lawmakers introduced legislation in both chambers that would establish opioid prevention centers across the state. And some lawmakers are also pushing for $40 million, a portion of the opioid settlement fund, to go towards current operating prevention centers.
We had an enormous battle during the budget to establish this, and the governor insisted that not a cent would go to either one of these organizations, either one of these facilities operated by the same organization, which is madness, because these places are saving lives every single day.
In Albany, Elise Klein, WNY News Now.
On Tuesday night, the state Senate honored women of distinction at its 25th annual ceremony. Senator Tom O'Mara honors Nancy Kirby, an advocate for small business and entrepreneur in the Southern Tier and Finger Lakes region.
Nancy's been a professional in the Southern Tier throughout her career, but stands out as a mentor to small business and entrepreneurs throughout.
Now, Kirby says she's been committed to the community, trying to make it a better place.
It's always nice to know that the work you're doing is being noticed.
Now, Kirby was joined with more than 60 other honorees selected by state senators. Certainly a great work by all of those that night. Well, coming up next, we have what a study has to say about kids preparing for emergencies and how soon should you be teaching life-saving skills. And later, as the weather warms, summer travel, it might be on the minds of many. We're breaking down new numbers from AAA forecasting the busy summer season we might have ahead. But first, when we come back, Andrew and a full look at our weather forecast.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first. WNY News Now is covering stories that matter to you.
15-year-old Yadiel Diaz was subject to a public humiliation stunt by a fellow student in an act of violence and bullying. Now Yadiel's mother, Raquel, has had enough.
Officials are trying to work with the county's homeless coalition to help support the homeless population locally. There are also plans in the works to build 2 new shelters.
WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
3-on-3 basketball returns to Jamestown, New York this summer. Collaborative Children's Solutions and partners are hosting a Gus Macker tournament August 19th and 20th in Brooklyn Square. The streets will be packed with a festival atmosphere, bringing the youngest of our Macker mites up to the adult players who compete for the top prize in their divisions. Register online at Macker.com before July 31st. The Jamestown Macker will also include some specialty competitions, making it one of the best community events of the year.
I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor.
Testicular cancer is the leading form of cancer in men aged 15 to 35.
1 in 250 men will be diagnosed with testicular cancer.
But 98% will survive if detected early.
As a survivor, I believe early detection is the key. Learn how to do a testicular self-exam and other important facts about testicular cancer at oneball4tc.com.
Fast, accurate, and every day. First Defense Weather.
Welcome back to WNY News Now. Current conditions in downtown Jamestown. We're under mostly sunny skies. The current temperature at the Jamestown Airport as of noon is 45 degrees with a northwest wind of 10 miles per hour. Well, besides the special weather statement, the National Weather Service has also issued a freeze warning in effect for most of western New York and northwestern Pennsylvania. This will go into effect this evening until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And there is a freeze advisory for southern Erie County in Pennsylvania. And we're going to get some pretty chilly temperatures overnight tonight, and that's going to drop temperatures below 30 degrees. So if you have any outdoor plants, you're going to want to bring them inside tonight or cover them up, or you run the risk of losing them due to the cold. Speaking of the temperatures, here's a look at what the temperatures will be around 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Yeah, we're looking at lows in the mid to upper 20s across most of the southern tier. I wouldn't be surprised if some areas well inland in the valleys get below 25 degrees into the lower 20s. It will be a bit warmer near the immediate Lake Erie shoreline with lows overnight there around the mid to upper 30s. Here's what's happening across the northeast right now. We had a cold front drop through the region last night. That's what's responsible for the cold air. That is down to our south now. We didn't really get anything out of that precipitation wise. High pressure is building in from Canada, and it's going to keep us dry over the next few days. So let's time it out on Future Scan. Future Scan is going to run in. It's a reoccurring theme these past few days. It's running, but nothing is happening. Mostly sunny skies for the rest of the afternoon today. Mainly clear skies through the night. It's part of the reason why it's going to get so cold. And then we'll go partly to mostly sunny skies through the rest of the afternoon tomorrow, and mainly clear skies into tomorrow night. And then there will be a few more clouds around heading into Friday, and by later Friday afternoon, Friday evening, we might get an isolated thunderstorm possible. And you'll see that here on the extended forecast powered by Ultimate Satellite Solutions. So yeah, temperatures today, highs only in the lower 50s. Tomorrow we do rebound back to the mid 60s with mostly sunny skies after a frosty start. Friday we'll get into the mid 70s, but there's a possible chance for a late afternoon thunderstorm possible. And then a low pressure system will move across the Great Lakes heading into the weekend. So we'll bring in a few showers on Saturday, but then high pressure builds back in, and we're right back to the dry weather for Sunday and into early next week, as temperatures will be just about around average, if not slightly above average.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much. Well, let's get some headlines now from around the nation. And there's a new call for schools and parents to teach younger children life-saving skills. Now, leading heart organizations, including the American Heart Association, say children as young as 4 can learn how to call 911 in a medical emergency. And by the age of 10 to 12, they should be able to administer CPR. In a statement, doctors say young children might not be strong enough to perform correct chest compressions, but they can still learn the basics on how to do it. They also urge parents to teach their young kids what 911 is, how to call it, and what their address is to direct emergency services to their home. Now, according to the CDC, up to 90% of people who go into cardiac arrest outside the hospital die because people around them don't always know what to do to help. Well, experts say artificial intelligence, better known as AI, is evolving and expanding as more companies pivot towards this technology. AI has been getting a lot of national attention recently, and now Congress put the spotlight on it. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Rachel Knapp reports.
While you see Senator Richard Blumenthal not moving his mouth, you can hear an audio clip that sounds like him in the background.
We have seen what happens when technology outpaces regulation.
According to the senator, he never personally recorded himself saying any of that.
The audio was an AI voice cloning software trained on my floor speeches.
The senator used that as an example of what artificial intelligence could be used for, like speech writing, based on data and research an AI system collects.
We could be looking at one of the most significant technological innovations in human history. And I think my question is, what kind of an innovation is it going to be?
Lawmakers on both sides agree. The promises of AI to help develop new understandings in things like science and health are encouraging, but it could bring potential harms, like killing jobs or spreading misinformation.
I think if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong.
The CEO of OpenAI told senators he largely agrees with them for having government regulations for this up-and-coming industry.
For example, the U.S. government might consider a combination of licensing and testing requirements for development and release of AI models above a threshold of capabilities.
Lawmakers want to get ahead by creating rules for AI in terms of transparency, accountability, and limits for AI use.
Congress failed to meet the moment on social media. Now we have the obligation to do it on AI before the threats and the risks become real.
At the Capitol, Rachel Knapp reporting.
Here's another reason to add exercise to your schedule. It could help keep you from dying from the flu and pneumonia. That's according to a recent study. It says exercising can cut down on your chances from dying from influenza and pneumonia by 48%. Now, researchers relied on the survey data of more than 570,000 people from across the U.S. who took part in a national health interview survey between 1998 and 2018. The people were categorized into groups based on how well they met recommended amounts of exercise. Now, for adults, that's 150 minutes of moderate aerobic physical activity and 2 or more days of moderate muscle strengthening activities. Participants were monitored for 9 years for each week. Researchers found that met both the recommendations for aerobic and muscular strengthening activity, cut the risk associated with death from those diseases in half. Now, meaning just the aerobic activity in general will target lowers your risk up to 36%. Interesting study there. Coming up next, AAA, they're out with their forecast for Memorial Day weekend travel, predicting that travel will be one for the record books. Coming up, what you can expect if you plan to drive or fly to your destination.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job. I need a new career.
Well, I've been there.
I've been there.
I've been there. I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
After high school, I didn't have a plan.
I just wanted to start working. I got laid off twice, but you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a 2-year IT program.
I found a medical course online.
I'm now a consultant in the tech space.
You have more options than you think. You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
On this episode of Lead and Lures, pro staffer and lethal lady Caitlin Armstrong takes out her big Ohio buck. Months of hard work, dedication, and scouting have led her to this moment. You're not going to want to miss this episode of Lead and Lures on Channel 716 Roku TV. And if you want to see more of Caitlin Armstrong, follow her on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
You know, hunting
Caitlin
on
Armstrong
private land has been quite the experience.
The unofficial start of summer, it's just 2 weeks away, and this week AAA releasing their travel forecast saying that Memorial Day will be one for the record books. If you're among the millions of people driving or flying to your destinations, what can you expect and how might you avoid the headaches? Cole Higgins has more.
Get ready for a record-breaking Memorial Day. According to AAA, 42.3 million Americans are expected to travel 50 miles or more from home over the holiday weekend.
The desire to travel is high. It's back to what it was pre-pandemic.
Compared to 2022, that's a 7% increase or nearly 3 million more people. And AAA says it's a glimpse of what's ahead this summer travel season, saying roads and airports will be busier than before the pandemic.
More people feel comfortable flying now. More people are booking trips ahead of time. And what that shows is that there's a demand for flights despite inflation.
According to AAA, this Memorial Day weekend, we could see the busiest airports since 2005. AAA recommends booking the first flight in the morning since it has fewer disruptions than later flights. Don't check in bags and be flexible.
Have those plan Bs and plan Cs in effect, knowing that potentially you could run into delays or cancellations at the airport.
AAA says most travelers are expected to drive to their destination, while also noting car travel is still expected to be down from pre-pandemic levels by 500,000 travelers. Prices at the pump are likely fueling the increased demand for road trips. AAA says the national average for a gallon of gas is below $4, which is lower than it was last summer. AAA recommends avoiding the roads Friday afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. and Monday between noon and 3 p.m.
So if you can extend that weekend trip to Tuesday, perhaps, or maybe work remotely on Tuesday, come back Wednesday, play around with your schedule a little bit to avoid those big delays.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Cole Higgins.
That's it for us today. The news continues 24/7 at WNYNewsNow.com.